you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
And we're live.
I'm cool with it.
Okay, so welcome everybody to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your host, Kemper Woodruff, the Happy Hoodlum himself. We have the Meat Castle, Mr. Zachary Sampson, and the Boy Wonder, Josh Taylor. And today's special guest, Mr. Scott Pham. And, you know, I really want to introduce you as the expert in balanced expansion, because I was kind of thinking after we got off the phone this morning about how I bring people on this to highlight who they are to me, like what makes them special. And I've noticed that you're like a consummate strategist. You're always looking at these ways to improve yourself from the time that I've met you. And you're one of the most balanced people for the amount of energy that you're expending like a madman. Yeah. And I think it's an art, you know, that you've refined. So that's why I brought Mr. Scott on today.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know absolutely nothing about him besides his name Scott. So I want to kick it. I want to kick it off with a good question here. What is the average day in the life of Scott? And do you have any like special regimens or whatever that you go through?
Good question.
Yeah, that's kind of how my whole life is kind of built by, is like regiments and protocols and strategies, and I have one for the day, night, and during the day. But basically, I just kind of start with my time schedule. So I'm usually up by 6, get my coffee, brush my teeth. I'm usually on the computer by about 6:30 for the market open in the New York. Markets open at 9:30. So I'm a scalper. So I go in and I look for a signal. I scalp the market. I specifically trade the S&P 500. So I'm in and out of the market. I'm not really sitting there any much longer than maybe 30 minutes a day. And then after that, I'm off to the gym, get my workout in. I'm back, and then I'm in breakfast mode, getting the house cleaned up. And then by about 9 o'clock, I'm on the open road, and I'm booking appointments and doing showings, because I also do wholesale cannabis during the day as my daytime job. So I've been in the cannabis rec market for about 6 years total. And then after 3 p.m., phones are off. Usually everything's off, and I'm a family man now. And I have a kid coming in next month.
Congrats, man.
Congratulations.
So,
That's dope.
yeah. That's kind of my life right now. And I'm in bed by, usually my phone's down by 8 o'clock typically. I have a 2-hour time period where I don't eat, and then I kind of slow down for the day, take cold showers, and then get into kind of that rest mode, and then it's kind of start back over. So I kind of have my days in. Yeah, I take cold showers in the morning and at night. So, and I kind of break up my days.
Nighttime. That's crazy.
Yeah, it like shocks the body, and just like, you know, it kind of like just gets you like ready for the next thing, which is like rest, you know. So I've been using a lot of cold showers now as like a daily protocol to kind of get me in different states quicker, depending on whether I'm fasted or not fasted, because I do fasting as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Did that evolve out of you doing your Wim Hof meditation?
I mean, Wim Hof was kind of like the first guy that I heard about like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, how does this guy do this? Like, and then ever since I've kind of dug into it since him, I've had other like scientists and, you know, performance coaches talk about breathing, and it just kind of all correlates, you know, that calm, like doing things hard, but like making that like a daily thing, and just kind of like moving the ball forward each day somehow, you know, whether it's small or big, but at least you're kind of like moving in the right direction. Might be not as fast, but, you know, you just kind of keep going.
Nice.
Yeah.
As you're approaching fatherhood, are there any like things about your childhood you're kind of looking back on and kind of place marking, like, oh, that's something I want to continue, that's something I'm not? Where's your
Actually,
head at?
I've had a lot of moments where I'm just thinking back of how I grew up, you know, and it's like almost I want to recreate that with my son coming next month, but like at the same time, I kind of want to like condense everything I had to learn in the last 10 years after high school, you know, or like 15 years. It's like all the shit that I didn't really tell you, you know, you have to kind of figure it out. And then I didn't realize like you could just tell these things a lot earlier in life versus like letting life kind of make you learn it. Whether it's
So
health, finance, relationships, you know, education, all sorts of shit.
yeah, I know that like you're someone that I've always looked to for gems about investing, the investor mindset, and just things around finance. And I noticed, so also backtrack. We met at Green Gratitude when I was working there with you. And so we had a lot of time that we would be talking basically. Scott was in the phase of like developing an empire. That's what he seemed like a dude that had just was like, fuck it, got my head straight, I'm recentering myself, and I'm just going full blast. But you were very open to different concepts, and um, we were sitting there talking about money a lot. And um, you were kind of telling me that in the beginning you didn't know about a lot of possibilities. So what was coming out of high school like for you? And can you explain how you got into investing? Was it through mentorship? How'd that take place in your life?
So I think I was like about 20 years old, maybe it's 2 years after I graduated. You know, I was just trying to figure out what do you do after high school pretty much. And I just didn't decide to go to college quite yet because I knew I wasn't ready to invest my time and resource in there and to actually get like a real return. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So instead of going to debt, I just kind of like just experience things or like, you know, went to seminars and just trying to get a different approach on education at the time. And I came across my cousin. Their parents are pretty heavy in real estate. They moved from California over to Georgia. Instead of buying houses for like 300 grand, 400 grand, they're buying houses for 80 grand and then renting it out for the same thing across the nation almost, you know? So because of their group, they kind of invited me, my cousin invited me to, uh, it was like a 12-day retreat business seminar in Vegas. And it was like, I bought the ticket with my cousin, went there, and I ended up sitting in front of Bob Proctor. Do you guys know who Bob Proctor is at all?
I
Name
He's like
do.
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
He's like this older guy. He like preaches like manifestation and or like the movie The Secret. Have you guys seen that movie? Maybe The Secret, or
Hmm.
heard of that?
About the law of attraction and
Yeah. So that's how I
yeah.
kind of got into that world of just like personal development. Is I sat in front of him and Les Brown. I don't know if you guys Les Brown, but I sat in front of him too, and
No way,
he,
you got to meet Les Brown?
I sat next
What,
to him, bro. I
like
was like, oh,
next to him?
yeah. I sat next to him. I was like, oh, you're like the Les Brown, like the motivational speaker, and like just you know,
That's
I didn't really understand like everything at the time. You know, I was like, oh, you're Les Brown, you're Bob Proctor, you know, and
hmm
just like surrounding myself with a different group of people, and that kind of sparked it up, and then it just kept attracting those type of people into my life, and I just learned from them, and that's just kind of what I've been doing for the last 15 years, is just learning from people that know some shit, you know, and then I try and figure it out, quantify it, and see if it applies in my life, essentially. So,
nice. And I think for people that are listening that might not know about Bob Proctor, I'm pretty sure he was a heavy influence on Jim Rohn, who
yeah,
was a heavy influence on Tony Robbins, and that's
yeah.
kind of like
Dale
some
Carnegie, like the OGs back then. Yeah.
yeah, so there's like a big descendancy of
Mhm.
people teaching this throughout time, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think the marketplace is a great way to express that because it has a life of its own. Like you're gonna have ups and downs. It's got a season as well, and yeah, you're gonna take some L's. And speaking of, what are some of like the first L's that you took that you had to bounce back from?
I mean, one of my coaches and mentor when I in my early parts of trading, he was like, I had one day where I was like, I made like 8 grand in like 5 minutes. You know, I was like, wow, this is cool.
Oh,
Like, I should probably learn how to do this more. But then you could lose that back and more just as fast. And so that's when I realized like if you don't really learn how to risk or manage your risk, you know, like you can go bankrupt real quick. And I've done that probably a couple of times in my life, in the last 10 years, where I've made really good money, but then it's gone like the next month or the next week or the next day.
Have you
Um,
found that investing can kind of be like an addiction in a sense,
oh yeah,
similar to gambling?
dude. I mean, I grew up pretty much gambling. That's just like my culture. Like I was watching my dad and family parents like playing gambling since I was like born, essentially. So I
Hmm.
was at the casinos when I was like 16. So ever since then, it's always been like a roller coaster. But then ever since I got into trading, it's more psychological because anyone can like place a bet or push a key, but the ones that amass wealth are the ones that can psychologically like understand the game versus just playing it.
And for clarification, when you say you were at the casinos and stuff, were you betting or no?
Oh yeah, I was betting. It was bad. I tried to become
Um,
a professional poker player or like background player, but I just have these innate personal things that I have to like overcome to be able to kind of like take the L's and scale the wins. So
Hmm.
kind of where I'm at right
um,
now. So I've had two funded traded accounts in Top Step
right.
firm out in Chicago. They've given me 50 grand to trade, and I've gotten it, but I've also lost it. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, you so you've had a lot of mentors, so we're gonna put you in the shoes of a mentor. Do you have
okay.
any advice on trading and or any life advice that you could give?
Health is, I was talking to Kemper earlier today about it, and whatever I try to strive for or to achieve, I've noticed that I can lose a balance with my health as I endure these things. And so every time I like get to a point where I'm just maxed out, like I'm learning that my health is being sacrificed for these things, and I'm kind of having like this 360 again about, and it always goes back to health. Like, am I getting
Yep.
enough sleep? Am I eating right? Am I timing my meals right? And because that's kind of give me like enough output to like do what I need to do during the day. But if I'm not feeling good or not getting enough sleep or eating right, it tends to be a lot easier to just fall off the grid and kind of like not win the day versus win the day. So I'd say just win the
Yep.
day, to be honest. Plan your day, execute it. And if it doesn't always work out the way, at least like you did something to move forward. So
Very true. Yeah.
it's kind of how I'm living right now. It's just, if I didn't get any sales today, it's okay.
Yeah.
I still made the phone calls, still did the follow ups, and I'm still doing the prospecting and just kind of keep filling it up. And eventually you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. You know, um, so that's kind of getting into your why, which was something that I was going to touch on a little bit later, but fuck it, we're there, so let's do this right now. Um, we've talked a whole bunch about like the naturopathic kind of just holistic lifestyle and how you really want to share that as well as all the knowledge that you're acquiring as you test it, and I think that's something very unique about you, and that when you do begin packaging this and putting it out more than just kind of like on a person to person level,
Mhm.
because I can tell you just from knowing you, anyone that encounters you, you're spreading the word, you
I'm
know?
just trying to help where I can help. That's all.
Yeah, but you're passionate. You're super duper passionate about it. So let's just get into that. And how did that come to take the forefront in
I
your
mean,
life?
I pretty much grew up playing sports, since like first grade. Second grade, I played soccer pretty much like half my life, and
Mhm.
I think growing up, I mean, my mom, she's the one that I've kind of like learned a lot of my health junkie stuff because she's basically like she's all full holistic. Kind of long story short, back then when I was growing up, she like was like 5 different medications, wasn't healthy, and then just one day she decided to just pick up a book and she pretty much healed herself and was able to get off the medication on her own, juicing and fasting, and then it just from her diving into that, it just kind of like I kind of like was a byproduct of learning all of the things that she learned, and then she would introduce me to her doctors, and um, like there's a point where because my aunt, she's a quadriplegic, and like her studies got so far into the nutrition of the cell that she was able to get her sister to almost walk again. That's how like crazy it got. And then some of her protocols that she's taught me, I've given to other people, and they've cured their cancer. Like it's gone like that. So you just kind of like, I feel like the why is just like health is wealth, and the more that you learn about your own being and how it operates, it can only make you better.
Hmm. I know
Yeah.
that those drops that you gave me, like the magnesium drops, and then like
Mhm.
the other one, I don't know what the full thing is called, but it definitely gave me some energy because in dealing with like the brain and brain injury, trying to recover is you need all those nutrients, and all the little ones really make a huge difference, and you don't notice it until you're like really deficient. Your brain blows a gasket, and then it's like, oh shit. You start noticing when your water has no vitamins in it and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So it's,
Hmm.
yeah, nutrition is definitely like I feel like it's a very sacred part of knowledge because most people just don't talk about it. You know, it's like
Hmm.
it's not a normal thing that we talk about on a daily basis. We talk about like weight loss or like New Year's resolutions, but we're not really talking about like what does your cell actually need to actually replicate itself. You know.
Dude, you phrase that so cool. That's a sacred part of knowledge. That's fucking dope. Your brain
Yeah.
is awesome. So in terms of your expansion of consciousness, were there any books that you ran into that were like heavily influential on you? And how did
Yeah.
okay, answer
No.
that and then I'll
It,
ask
I
next.
think. Have you guys heard of Think and Grow Rich,
Nah.
or
Yeah.
How to Win Friends and Influence, and Richest Man in Babylon? So those were like the three books that were like given to me when I first started college. Back when I was like 26 is when I decided to go to college, and I met this professor, and he was like, read these three books. And then ever since then, like it's helped me with people skills and like finding like opportunities and just being able to kind of navigate through the world because we deal with humans. So it's kind of like those three really help kind of shape my perspective on how to like coexist with humans.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally believe in that. And there's also like some hard resets that we can get through things like psychedelics and stuff like that. I definitely know mushrooms have helped me in my life immensely, to realize some stuff. So, where did you encounter those in your journey?
I mean, when I got to cannabis, because before cannabis 6 years ago, I was like in the corporate world. I worked at Rockstar Energy and was just like slinging caffeine all day
Well,
for the whole state. And then one day I was just like, this is not healthy. This doesn't align with my being. Like I don't probably shouldn't be drink. I didn't had health problems too. So when I went to cannabis, it was like, oh, this is holistic. This is a part of the holistic medicine, and that's how I looked at it. And then that's when I kind of came around psychedelics, and then I didn't know until how psychedelics can help recreate neural pathways in your brain and open up thought processes. And then I just kind of fell in love with that medicine as well, and I do a lot of medical stuff with that as well. So I just feel like it's something that a lot of people can relate to once they get a chance to like experience it. So he's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
You're gonna. I haven't done mushrooms, psychedelic. Like, you're gonna have to sell me on it.
I mean, the way I look at it, it's a way to go through any personal trauma. I've had a lot, from family, like from my family's upbringing and their trauma it transferred to me, and then how I kind of lived out my life. I didn't know if those things were coming from like personal trauma that was like early in my age, and then um, when I learned about how shrooms can actually open neural connections and really kind of open your mind a little bit, that kind of gave me the courage to try. And ever since then, like I've been able to kind of like process that trauma through and out and just kind of be more observant of it than having it take me over. And it's kind of like what that medicine being been done to help me personally. So it's not really something I could sell you on. It's just more like if it's something
Yeah.
that could help like understand yourself more if that's something that you're looking for, because not everyone's not looking for that. So it just varies.
I'll sell you on that shit right
Something-
now.
I'm never doing that with
I
y'all.
always tell people to think about when, specifically surrounding like cannabis and psychedelics, is it's kind of a tool, and I have a very low level of understanding of psychedelics because I've only done mushrooms once, and that was with Kemper, and that was probably one of the most impactful moments or days in my life, because after that I've been like the happiest I've been in my entire life.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's been 2 years about since. And I tell
that's
people to
sweet,
use it as a tool, because even cannabis can help you kind of like strip away your biases and stuff, and help you kind of like learn about yourself in a lot of ways, and it's really cool to kind of use that.
I like how you phrase it as a tool, and that's kind of like how I kind of use those medicines. Like when I'm in a rut, I'm like, dude, I need to like think outside the box, and I just kind of have a moment to myself, and then you just get thoughts, and then you kind of
something comes.
yeah, somebody literally just like comes and like, oh, I didn't think about that, and all of a sudden like the universe starts to change, and that's literally what happened when I left Green Gratitude. Like thoughts came, and my entire life changed when I like left that place. So, and I'm still in that rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
Hey.
We had gone and went to see Mesamerica, which was a show that had come to OMSI in the IMAX, and it was a bunch of Peruvian music, like steel drums and things like that. So you're listening to this really groovy soundtrack for like an hour and a half, something like that, and it's a light show too. And so all the stuff that they're like playing on the screen, like when we went in there, we're sitting down like looking up, and it's in a dome, right? So you're looking up, and it's like a fucking Dragon Ball. The ceiling looked like a Dragon Ball, and I was like, "What?" And as it started going to all these different images. One looked like almost like that old school tube fucking wallpaper. Do you guys remember that on the computers? You guys old enough to remember that?
Oh, where it bounced off the wall.
It would
and
drop
Oh
it's
down.
yeah,
gone.
dude. Every TV
It was
had
like
that
a tube.
thing.
So they had one of those that they were playing, and everything was kind of like infinite. It was intertwining and expanding and contracting and changing. And I swear there's something to that. It was like, I remember distinctly after that one trip, I was like, what the fuck? I got out of there and I looked up at the sky. The sky looked like a damn kaleidoscope. I was like, yo, why isn't this on the news? Mushrooms will make me think of that shit. Like, life is so beautiful. Why isn't this on the news?
Yeah,
The sky
well,
looks
it's
like a
coming.
fucking painting.
It's coming, man. They just released license and permits for facilities where you can actually like go in and get an evaluation and see if you can actually take a trip with a trained facilitator. So it's all coming right now. It's kind of crazy, but it's also going to be really cool to watch.
I hope they allow that to go down in a less clinical setting.
Yeah, I think
think
just right now that's just where it's at. Just because
it's
I couldn't imagine people just going to the shop and buying psychedelics and just like.
Well, I don't know. We got to do something like they should open up like the national parks or something for like a tour. And it's like people can go, and it's like a government thing.
Like
You know what I
Planet
mean?
of the Apes for real.
Well, shit. Like there's something to getting out in nature, right? We talk about exercise, and a lot of people just live in cities. But when you get in nature, it just grounds you so
Oh yeah.
differently. And when you're on
Yeah.
psychedelics, it takes on a whole new energy. That's why I took you to a park, Zach.
Yeah, that
Bro.
dude. And I actually had a conversation with someone recently about how good I feel in nature, and it's something that I wish I could do more of, because growing up as a kid, I lived out in Cascade Locks, and so we got to just hike and spend
That's
all
dope.
of our time. That's literally all we had to do, was be outside and spend our time in nature. And so we would ride our bikes on Eagle Creek Trail, hike Punch Bowl Falls, find random trails off of that, and explore them and stuff. And I've always like recently, I've always felt like just my best being out in nature. And I realized that as an adult, how much I missed it last year when I was hiking with one of my friends. And we had gone on like 4 hikes, and I realized like I feel alive.
Yeah.
And it I felt like I felt aware of everything, even myself. I felt more aware of my breathing. I felt like I could hear more things, see more things. And it was just, yeah, it made me realize that I really appreciate nature for how it really makes me feel, to be honest.
Dude,
So,
that
yeah.
was me just early today. I was just like running outside. I'm like, man, this feels amazing. Like just running
Something
outside.
yeah, it's honestly just amazing, especially when you're really in nature, like in the woods.
Yeah.
The air feels different. It
Yeah.
feels a little lighter sometimes. And something that I have been missing a lot lately has been swimming, which is like a different form of nature.
Mhm.
It feels I miss that so much because it was another thing I grew up doing. We would jump off cliffs to water and just have fun, just nature fun, and didn't need anything else other than what the earth gave us. It was a lot of stuff that I miss doing that I did growing up, and I want to get back to that type of shit.
I feel it. I'm on the same
Yeah.
boat.
I just
Hell
touched grass
yeah.
for the first time. So
Me too.
So
Uh,
I know you're on a kind of a time crunch tonight, Scott.
Oh no,
Scott's busy.
I'm good, man. No worries.
Oh,
I
you're
just
good.
pushed my stuff tomorrow. I'm like, they can wait for the weed tomorrow.
Let's
hey,
go.
Yeah, I'll
That's
get
Let's
to the
really
weed
go.
cool
tomorrow.
shit.
for the podcast.
Okay.
Hey.
So I kind of just wanted to touch on uh where we were in the story with like green gratitude and how you transitioned out of there into buddies and then onto exotic blends, because it's really, you left a trail of impact that was exponential. Each company got a better Scott and a better Scott, and the margins can, express that. So you want to go into kind of business and the strategies that you may have implemented there that help make you
Uh,
more successful?
I guess, I think I just kind of took the basics of what I learned in the shop, retail, whether it's Jamba Juice, because I worked at Jamba Juice, whether it's Rockstar, whether it's, cannabis. We were in a more of a retail setting. And at that point, I was just kind of more like just chilling and working 312s, hiking the other 4 days. It was kind of more just like a way I didn't have to like have this corporate stress or something like that. But I was actually like the most happiest I've ever been, like having that type of flexibility and like working with people that I liked, and really cared about.
Hmm.
And so work wasn't like stressful. I just had more time to play, kind of like what you're talking about, just going to hike, swim, go boating. I was just kind of doing more of that. And I think there was just one day where I was just having so much fun that like it attracted my wife right now like around that time, and it just kind of came, and the universe was just kind of unfolding as it was going. And so I was like, okay, well, if I want to start that chapter of my life, like I really gotta like kind of get back on the grind again, essentially. So one day I was just like one of like buddies, like our friend Brent, I was like, hey, if
Hmm.
you guys ever need help, I have some sales and logistics background. Just let me know we need help. And then a week later, he was like, hey, we need help. So that's that's when I took off, and I started doing distribution for they're like the number one wholesale and like cartridge company in Oregon. And when I got on board, they were in about 200 stores, and they were like maybe their second year in business. And then I came in and uh, created the distribution schedule all the way from like Ontario, Idaho, like near Idaho, all the way to the coast, up and down the coast, up and down I-5, and doing distribution for all the stores, taking it off the sales reps so that way they could increase more revenue and more stores. So we went from like 200 to about 400 stores. So we doubled in about a year.
That's
And beat so
insane.
Yeah, we doubled to 400. We were servicing 400 cannabis stores in the state.
Fuck.
That's huge money.
Wow.
Huge
Crazy.
money.
And then I was getting ready to go take a territory in Eugene as a sales rep there, working underneath the GM. And then I ran into a friend of a friend that had asked me to run their wholesale back then, but while I was at Green Gratitude, I wasn't ready because I had never been in a wholesale before. But after like a year and a half in it, I learned some stuff, and so when I decided to take that project on, I actually went there and sold a crap ton of pre-rolls, like about $3 million worth in 1 year with a team of like 3 to 4 people. And then yeah.
I was gonna say one of the things that was so interesting, a lot of the time that we spent, Scott was really curious. Like when he says he took the medical mindset, he was like, imagine a true scientist smoking weed, right? He went in and he would ask me things about different strains, and then he wanted to know the science of the market as well, right? So he
Yeah.
would ask about, oh, back in the medical days, how was it? How did it get to here? There was tons of people coming through, like vendors all the time. And so every time a vendor would come through, I'd be like, hey, Scott, put a big old bag in his face. What do you think? It's for this
Yeah.
much.
And
Like,
I still do it now, you know what I mean? So that's the crazy part. Like I try everything that I do, and I plug people where they need it, and now since I went from pre-rolls and I went directly to the farm, and I take it directly from the farm to the store now. There's no more middleman. Like I'm basically cutting that out directly so that way everyone gets like fair pricing essentially.
yeah, and it's interesting because you were basically like looking at the numbers side of it, right?
Mhm.
And then from that, learning negotiation, like your ability to negotiate within the market. Because I was someone like, one of the things that they liked about me when I was at the shop is I'm a people person, but I'm business savvy in that, like, I'm about relationships, and I don't care about just this first bag of weed looking good, right?
Right.
And so I'm going to haggle with people, and I would give anyone like an open door, which was rare, oftentimes, especially at that time in the recreational market, things were fucking booming, and there was such a surplus that it was hard. There's only so much shelf space in
Mhm.
stores, but it gave us me and you, we were just all learning together, Alex too,
Yeah.
who, viewers, you'll meet Alex later on. I'm getting the gang all on here little by little. um, but yeah, it really taught me a lot about negotiating. And did that carry on with you until into the wholesale market, the whole haggling aspects of it and stuff?
Yeah, so I kind of like created my own kind of like strategy for sales in terms of like at least the market I partake in now, which is like large bulk medical. And then I do a little bit of retail now, but it's like because like our industry thrives on cash. That's like just cash flow, and we're just a straight cash business. So when you put things on like 30-day nets, it's really hard to operate your business, especially when people are late on their bills. So I've kind of recreated my menu now. It's like, hey, if you can get market price like for $100 less right now, or I can tax you if you need to borrow my money essentially, you know.
Hmm.
So most people are like, oh, I want to save money, so they put cash, and that's just kind of like how I run it now, just because people are not very honest nowadays, and they'll just not pay their
Yeah.
bills. It makes it
No
really
more
hard to work.
terms. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
No more terms. Because, okay, so for people that don't know, there's dispensaries that might not even have multiple locations. This is why the market is so unique and so weird. It would just be one location. Take, for example, um, there's an American themed dispensary. I don't want to put their name out because I don't know if they're okay. But basically, they had bought on consignment, right? Um, like a whole entire crop. I'm talking like 50 acres of weed type shit. You know, like
Fuck.
50 pounds, yeah, like 50, 100 pounds at a time, and
Holy shit.
that was how they got their cheap weed for the year,
Mhm.
and they would say, hey, you hold on to this because we only have so much at the storefront, and you just keep bringing us jars, we'll pay you as we go. And that's how the industry worked. It wasn't always on that grand scale, but it was something where people had tabs and things like that in the cannabis industry, and it made it very unique and really fucking cool.
You know what's crazy too is that the alcohol, people don't realize it, but every alcohol transaction is made either wire transfer or check. It's never
Really?
like Yeah, it's never, hey, well, you can bill me later. It's when it's billed, it's billed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there's no
100%.
like, yeah, but for some reason, like, we don't do that in our industry. So people
Yeah,
can
it was
not pay you if they don't want to pay you. 'Cause-
straight up that old school, like, because
Yeah,
weed isn't federally legalized and stuff. It's one of those things that kind of came in as an outlaw industry, and a lot of
yeah,
things were passed that weren't necessarily the smartest ways to write up a bill, and then they had to amend it like crazy and into where
yeah.
we are today. But
I just know the
let's
state's making a lot of money off the taxes, and I still don't know what they're doing with it. Because imagine, so you have 700 stores slash like grows and stuff that are all paying tax in cash every month to the state capital, but you know, no one really gets to
Where's it
see any of
going?
that. Yeah, where's it going?
Yeah.
yeah.
What the fuck?
Think about it. Like each spot's paying between 20 to 30 grand in cash every month between those establishments. So it's just like,
Whoa.
Fuck.
where's this vault of cash?
hmm
Yeah, where's it at?
Where's it at, y'all?
Straight up.
Holy shit.
Speaking of money, so I saw an article a while back, and it basically said that growers don't really make that much.
It's the retail.
Not
Really?
right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Yeah.
60% of grows closed last year in 2022.
Wow.
hmm
Damn.
Yeah.
And to give you a concept of where bud's at, you can get good weed. Like in other states, this would be like, yeah,
Oh
people are
yeah.
stoked. In
I
Oregon,
should have brought some over here and showed you guys. I can sell like 900 pounds that are going for like 13, 14, $1,500 in California or even 2,000 in Florida.
yeah,
Wow.
it and for $350, you can get some outdoor, some light depth stuff that you can score. That fucking incredible. You can get a pound of it, and
Yeah, it's pretty
so
crazy. I've seen pounds that's for as buy one for $100, you get one for $1. Like I've seen stuff like that.
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
hmm
Holy.
It got real bad, and it's still pretty bad right now because people just won't pay their bill and they just won't like keep their stuff straight. It's weird.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so after Buddies, you got into exotic blends.
Yeah,
This was
pre-rolls.
another example of you ramping shit up. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I got there and I was thinking it was gonna be like kind of like the last company I was at. It was like, fully built out. They got their inventory and their production team all lined up and like, you know, and then when I got there, it was not like that at all. So I had to kind of build it pretty much like from the ground up and took it from like about 40 stores because they were just in one retail store with retail chain, which was Lamoda and like some mom and pop shops. And then we were able to get to about 160 stores with about two sales reps, me and myself and one other person and one like metric person that can make orders. And so I was kind of operating like 150 plus stores across Oregon, just with like a team of three and then like a team of five on the production. So there was like 8 of us total, and we were just like cranking out like, I don't know, 40,000 pre-rolls a week.
Think about that.
Yeah, it was
It's
Holy
crazy.
fucking
Think
crazy.
about it. Think about 1,000 square foot like room, right? And then just cut it in half. One side was production, and one side was like packaging and like sales and stuff. And I was like, that was it. We're doing like
And
40,000 pre-rolls out of that thing.
it's so crazy
That's nuts.
because this is the OG shit. It was some janky youngster like me sitting on a couch rolling weed in the little up down joint rollers back in the medical day, right? Which wasn't necessarily the way to go, right? That's how we started out. And then it goes to packing pre rolls into like paint shaker type shit,
Yeah.
doing like 50 at once. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I did a lot of pre-rolls, and then the market changed, and they didn't adjust to like, market pay and stuff like that. So it didn't make sense anymore in terms of like incentives. So
hmm
then that's when I was like, fuck it. And then I went directly to the farm and just was like, hey, what do you guys want for your pounds? And I went to the store and said, hey, what do you want for your pounds? And there's a margin in between somewhere. And that's kind of like how I roll now, just because I have more control over that.
hmm
Yeah.
And that was always like the honeypot position for anyone that wanted to do like independent contracting.
Mhm.
If you could, 'cause there's only so many licenses. That's something that people don't know. There's only so many wholesaler licenses, and so to get that like coveted wholesaler spot gives you the ability where if you know people, right, you can go over here and say, hey, I'll carry Buddy's excess flour that they're trying to sell or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
different farms that you have. And dude, you can actually be the best hookup that someone can have because no one's going to give you that same personal connection,
Yeah.
of when you're talking to the dude. Like,
Yeah.
you're the guy that's going to get product and go, oh, I know exactly who to give this to.
Yeah.
Rather
I'm
than,
basically like a farm ambassador, farm liaison, like kind of like a brand ambassador. Like that's the work I've done in the past, but I'm a brand ambassador for weed.
Mhm. Bro, you just keep rolling things together. And that's
Yeah.
why I think you're such a great example of someone who takes this knowledge and knows how to integrate it. Because a lot of like social media motivators and things like that, they're not, we're so addicted to these clips, these short clips, that we're not getting all the context, right? And I think you're a great example of someone who can literally go, hey, these are the institutions that I went into and how it leveled up in each stage. And this is what I was going through at my life, and I learned this, this, and this from these mentors on the side.
Yeah.
Are there any other mentorships that you like got into over the years that helped you to learn and kind of hone your mindset?
I actually had there was a point in my life or in my trading life where it was really bad and I was just losing a lot of money and you just couldn't figure out why. And it's probably better just to stop at that point. And then I came across this guy named Randy Howell. He's a performance and performance therapist for like trading. He like coaches like private hedge funds, like people that manage like anywhere from 10 to $100 million in their portfolio. And I went to one of his like online seminars and just kind of was trying to seek like how do I calm my mind and execute this without like losing my shit basically. And he's the one that's kind of helping me currently right now. I check with him in once a month just to kind of give him an update on like, am I making progress? Am I staying consistent, or is there somewhere I need to go back to the drawing board? He's kind of shaping my mind to like kind of like quit but not quit, like just quit trying. And I think that's kind of like my next step. But right now he's helping me with a lot of um emotional intelligence stuff, kind of like the things I talk to myself, how I prep myself. Like that's why when I tell you my routine, like that's all really is just so I could like analyze the market and then like win or loss and then do it again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd get too attached to like winning or losing, and I played sports most of my life, so I just don't like losing. But in this game, losing is a normal thing. It's just your attitude with it, and if your strategy is legit or not, you know.
I heard an incredible quote because I was listening to 50 Cent's book. I think it's Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter.
Mhm.
And he was talking about Honda. And I didn't know this, but I guess Honda wound up selling for like, man, pennies of compared to what he was worth. And he got like 450,000 and then started Honda. He was actually working for a Japanese company at the time, but he goes on to start Honda. And he said success is the 1% out of the 100% effort that you've put in. Whatever you have, there's 99% loss to account for this 1% that you have. And it might not always be financial, but in terms of life, if you're pursuing anything, whether you're an actor trying to get a role, you get turned down. You have to experience these
Yeah.
hurdles before you get there. And I thought that was just such a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, it's a constant, man. Whatever you're pursuing, it's just hopefully you just love it enough to where you can get through all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
And
A
so,
really cool thing about Honda is I believe he didn't even go to engineering school, which was why it was a really hard time for him to get that type of funding for him to sell his ideas and stuff like that.
yeah,
Whoa.
Or mechanic school, or he never something like that. He never got
he
formal
just had a
schooling on
vision.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Whoa.
you're correct because he had just driven. I think what it was, he had designed a different piston, and
yeah. It was
I think
that or an axle or something like that. I can't remember.
yeah. But Scott, since this is all about mind state, where did meditation enter in your journey? Where'd you start getting into that? Because I know you're
Um,
big on meditation.
Honestly, I think it was around the same time when I started trading, like 6 years ago. I was just trying to figure out how to like stay calm because it's just, it's kind of like a roller coaster. But I think it's kind of the same time when I came across Wim Hof, and one time I crossed both of them where I'm like doing the breathing and meditating at the same time. I passed out. So yeah, don't do that. You don't want to like meditate in a cold shower and then pass out. I guess you could die. I didn't know that, but you can actually die from
Oh
that.
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the lack of oxygen in your body and you're like not giving it oxygen, you can actually pass out and just not
To
breathe.
anyone that hasn't done a Wim Hof like breathing, I've actually mentioned this before in previous episodes, dude. You don't even have a clue as to how long you can hold your breath right now if you've never done it. Like the first time I did my Wim Hof thing, I held my breath for like I think it was like 3.5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
Like it's insanity.
yeah. So
Yeah, Wim Hof breathing
meditation,
is
just
crazy.
it just came in like it's just a part of that whole holistic scope, you know. And there's like so many different variations and stuff. So I have different like short. I can only like really do it for like 10, 12 minutes at the tops, just because I can't sit there too long. I have to get
Did
up.
you did you try anything that was like duds? Like have you gone through like I'm just gonna say like seated meditation and then you find, hey, I don't do that anymore. I just do the Wim Hofs. Like how did the evolution take place?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out like how I could schedule that in my day and still be consistent over time. And like realistically, I could maintain about a 10-minute max like every day. So that's like the max. And like the fastest I'll do is maybe like 2 minutes, but like I know I can knock that out each day at least. So
Are you talking
it just
about the Wim Hof or 10
yeah,
minutes
so
of
Wim
seated?
Hof is about 10 minutes, and then like the one that my therapist teaches me is about I can do that in about like 2 minutes.
Hmm.
And it's really just diaphragmatic breathing into the stomach, like blowing it up and letting it go out, and it just kind of basically puts your body in a resting state quicker.
Hmm.
That's the modality. It just like calms your nerves right away when you do like um, diaphragmatic breathing out of the stomach and just hold and do a couple of sets, and you should be chilling.
Hmm.
Usually.
Yeah, it's your vagus nerve.
Yeah, yo,
Um,
can I get like an example to see I'm not into like the whole yoga or meditation. So like,
Yeah, so I mean, if you kind of think like most people, they shallow breathe, so they're like kind of taking short breaths. But then when you
yeah.
actually like think about expanding your stomach like a balloon, and then when you let go, you just kind of let it float up, and then there's actually still a lot of oxygen in your stomach, so it actually like creates dopamine in your stomach because there's
mhm.
just
Whoa.
more excess oxygen sitting in there, and then that actually automatically makes your body calmer.
It it's also the
Okay.
compression. So
Yeah,
when your muscles are tensed like that, like you would be in a seated posture with a straight spine, it's going to be the compression because that's one of the things that yin yoga really focuses on and is all the like forward folds and stuff. It'll just that's why we sleep on our stomach when we're drunk, things like that. It's your body's way of
I
recouping
didn't
all
know
that.
that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that. That makes sense.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's just yeah, that's kind of like my journey of meditation. Is just trying to help me stay calm under pressure,
Hmm.
basically, or when things happen. That's what I'm starting to do. It's more like a tool, like you were saying earlier. Like it's just another tool in the tool belt.
Yeah.
Whether
I
it's yeah,
I got into meditation when I was like I want to say I was like 19, maybe closer to 20, and I'd gotten into it because I was really like it was undiagnosed depression, but I labeled it depression because I was extremely sad and I wasn't happy with where I was in life, and so I started using meditation and guided meditations at night to fall asleep and stuff like that. And it really helped me with my mindset going forward. And yeah, it was extremely impactful to me going forward. And like in school, it helped me manage the pressure and it helped me stay positive about the future. And it was yeah, it was the best tool that I've learned since graduating high school. It was
Yeah,
super
they
impactful.
don't tell us about that stuff in school.
Nah.
You got to figure it out after you're stressed out, or like,
For
you got
real.
to figure it out. So that's cool
It
though.
was
So,
Yeah. What's up?
Go ahead, Kemp.
uh, no, man, you guys go
It's all
go
good.
for it.
Well, I mean, I was basically just gonna go down a rabbit hole of how school isn't structured to teach kids and prepare them for the life outside of high school, and we're still like working off this formula back in the 50s where we needed people to work on factory lines and shit like that. And
Dude,
it's just right now we're just creating worker bees. We don't need that anymore. We need people with more like mindful and more prepared for the life that they're about to live.
dude, I
Well,
saw something
Yeah.
about so how you just said that school's based off of something from the 1950s. Apparently, so the guy, there's a guy that basically invested a whole lot of money into the school system. But this guy that created our school system here, um, got it from like England back in like the 1600s.
yeah,
Interesting. I didn't
it's
know
a
that.
monarchy, dude.
Yeah.
Dude,
So if you think about it, like a monarchy is made for that reason. We need you just base level smart, and you can get trained into whatever you need, right? But I'm looking at shit like I saw a video of a little girl with a samurai sword, and she was at some kind of like event or contest performance thing. Yo, the shit that she did was so legit incredible. I'm like, there's no way that we can't teach more advanced things like what high school level math. There's no way a 10-year-old can't learn that. You cannot tell me in this modern day that a 10-year-old can't learn that shit a little bit sooner. If we actually like refined it down, like maybe we're just doing this wrong. Waiting until you're like 18, right? Maybe we should just
Yeah.
let you go a little bit earlier and start teaching you more relevant shit. You know, like you have life school after the basics of like, we need you not to be an idiot. We need you trainable.
That's what I'm gonna try and do when Troy's here. So my son's name is Troy, and like when I'm trying to like take that last 15 years I learned and condense them down to like habitual things like early on in his life, and then he'll be like, oh, this is why I invest now versus like way later, or like this is how I budget, or this is how I take care of my health, or this is how I build my relationships, and these things you never really learned until like you fuck up pretty much.
Yeah. Like
At least for me.
I know I went to a really unique elementary school, but at Christmas time they would have everybody bring things in, and it was like a Christmas bazaar where they'd give you like fake money, and you had to like make a list of the people that you have to buy for and stuff. But it really taught you about like shopping, and you only have so many coins and stuff. And I think if we just do that earlier, it'll definitely have that ripple effect for sure. But the name Troy is a very strong name. How'd you come up with that?
I think it was just something that I mean, it was actually a little pun that me and my wife came up with because in Vietnamese, like when you say Choi it's like, oh my gosh, like Kemper, you know? So in Vietnamese you go like Choi means like, oh my gosh. And so Troy was kind of like a pun, and then it kind of stuck, and then we just kind of saw it as like a very strong name that he could potentially like live through. And then it just kind of stuck around. So I'm hoping that he can be the next generation to where he can like, learn some things a little bit sooner than my generation or my parents' generation, and kind of like help the future out somehow if I can kind of show him some things now rather than later.
Yeah. And excuse me. And looking kind of towards the future and stuff, because I know we got to wrap this thing up. Let's kind of talk about what is legacy to you, and at this stage of the game, um, what do you want your legacy to kind of be going forward, and how are you going to go about making that happen?
Well, I think this year I made a commitment to live in gratitude. I feel like gratitude was something that I always heard or always hear people talk about, or, you kind of like hear it, but then when you kind of go to the science of it and you understand like what it can do to your body chemically, um, I just realized like, man, if I just would have known how to be more grateful and how to like leverage that tool early on, it can really make a difference on how I interact in my environment, whether it's good or bad. You know,
Mhm.
Notice that when I'm in like scenarios where it's just not a good scenario, but I practice it, you can get through it, and even going through it, like I feel a lot more happier when I do it.
Yeah.
There was someone that was doing a talk, and he was like challenging people, thinking like, oh, people thought that the happy people are the ones that are grateful. And then he was like, I challenge you to think about, well, what if it's not? What if it's those people that are grateful that are happy? Because you can't be happy and then you're grateful. So if you kind of think about it the other way, like people are actually just grateful. They have nothing, right? And they're just actually just grateful, and that's why they're happy. But you can see people that have everything and they're happy, but they're not grateful, or they don't look happy, but because they're probably not grateful.
Yeah. You can't see the options,
Yeah,
that are before you. That I was listening, going back to that 50 Cent book, man. He was talking about internships, and how while I think he was at Interscope, or one of the like labels he was at, wasn't dropping his CD, and he was frustrated because they wouldn't have this conversation with him about when the album's going to be released. So he was like, I decided, fuck it, I'm going to have a better conversation, and they'll say yes to it because they just don't want to have that other conversation. So I'm
right.
going to ask if I can get an internship, and just walk around the building. And as he did, he started seeing what all these different departments were doing. The advertising department, I want to see what kind of photos work, what they're looking for. And he just took that time, that he could have been mad and really ungrateful for, you know, but because he was like, dude, it's gonna be released at some point, he
Yeah,
decided to be grateful for what he had.
yeah. So that's
And
kind of like my legacy now. It's like I always thought it was like financial, or like at first I thought it was. I mean, health is also definitely a part of it, but the gratitude will bring the health,
mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Mm,
I
I
just
like
kind of
it.
want I just kind of want to make sure that like is passed on, moving from me forward. You know. So
We'll say that. All right.
Fuck yeah.
Scott, we appreciate you. I'll get your social media stuff so we can post it. That way people can know where to find you if they need you. And
yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much for being on the show.
No, I
Hey,
appreciate it.
thank
It's
you.
the first time ever being on a podcast, so thanks for having me
Hell
on. I
yeah.
appreciate you guys.
I'm confident this will not be your last podcast, but it is an honor
Oh
to be
yeah.
your first, brother.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and safe wherever you guys are at too. You said you're in Montana. Is that what it was? No,
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Damn, that's
Hey.
far. Yeah.
Hey, you got the M
We're
right.
in the
You're close.
Forgotten
Yeah.
State.
Mississippi is hella
Yeah.
far. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever
All
want to
right,
come
y'all.
ride
Well,
horses, let me know.
cool.
All right. Peace.
All right, fellas.
Later.
Thank you.
Yeehaw.
Take